was absolutely crazy, madly in love with David Ruffin. David this, David that, David, everything was David.
Ruffin was Ruffin, you know, he could be a sweetheart 1 minute, and then it was like Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde.
David hit her with a hammer and hatchet, and, you know, just all kinds of crazy stories.
Let's face it, Tammy was abused. She told me that Ruffin had hit her, you know, very hard.
Tammi Terrell was a beautiful and talented singer, but do you know the heartbreaking truth about her life? She was a rising star with hit songs, but behind the scenes she was struggling. What really happened to her? Why did her life end so soon? Her story is full of pain, betrayal, and tragedy. How did she go from fame to a terrible fate? Let's uncover the truth.
Just call my name, I'll be there in a hurry. You don't have to worry.
Tammi Terrell was born as Thomasina Winifred Montgomery on April 29, 1945 in Philadelphia. Her mother was an actress, but she did not have much success. Her father, on the other hand, was a successful barbershop owner. When Tammy's parents were expecting their first child, they thought it would be a boy.
She was just such a lively, vivacious, charismatic little kid.
They planned to name him Thomas after his father, but when they saw their baby was a girl, they decided to name her Thomasina instead. Later, Tammy had a younger sister named Ludi. Ludi wrote a book about Tammy's life called My Sister Tommy, The Real Tammi Terrell. In the book, she shared stories about the best and worst moments of Tammy's life. One of the worst moments happened when Tammy was still a child. After leaving a party in her neighborhood, she was attacked by 3 boys. The boys were arrested and sent to jail, but the terrible experience affected Tammy for the rest of her life. It left emotional scars that never fully healed.
Under the rug. Certain aspects of Tammy's personality kind of metamorphosized into extreme.
Not long after that, Tammy started to have severe headaches. Her family did not think it was a serious problem at first, but as she grew older, the headaches kept coming back. Despite her struggles, Tammy had a gift for music. From a young age, she had an amazing singing voice. She entered local singing contests and won many of them. Because of her talent, she got the chance to perform with famous singers, including Patti LaBelle. And by the time Tammy was 15, she had already signed music contracts and recorded some songs. She was on her way to becoming a star, but her journey would not be easy, and her life would be much shorter than anyone expected. Terrell's painful contract with James Brown.
This is a man's world.
Tammi Terrell was only 19 years old when she signed a contract to work for James Brown. She was hired to be one of his backup singers for his concert tours. But for Tammy, the job came with something that was never written in the contract. She was also expected to be in a sexual relationship with James Brown. This was not something she signed up for, but it became part of her life once she started working for him.
James Brown, he was like the man. And if you knew James Brown or worked with James Brown, you had arrived.
Tammy's mother was very worried about her daughter. She knew the music industry could be dangerous, especially for a young girl like Tammy. There were many things that could go wrong. The fast life of entertainment was full of temptations, and there were people who could take advantage of her. But James Brown's assistant, a woman named Gertie, promised Tammy's mother that she would take care of her daughter. Gertie assured her that Tammy would be safe while on tour. However, it didn't take long for James Brown to get very close to Tammy. Either Gertie was not really watching over her, or she was helping James Brown get access to Tammy outside of work. Soon James started giving Tammy expensive gifts. He bought her jewelry, clothes, and other luxury items. He also gave her money and paid for her to stay in the best hotels. As they traveled from city to city, Tammy was living a life that seemed glamorous on the outside. But behind closed doors, things were very different.
She had told me that James used to hit her. regularly in the head, among other places.
One of the most talked about moments in Tammy's life was the time James Brown was found sleeping in her bed. This didn't happen at her parents' house, but in a hotel while she was on tour. According to Tammy's sister, Ludi, this is what happened. Tammy's family was visiting her in New York while she was touring with James Brown. Tammy went out with her mother and sister for the day. They spent time shopping and enjoying each other's company. But when they returned to Tammy's hotel room, they got a big surprise. When they walked into the room, they saw James Brown sleeping in Tammy's bed. He woke up suddenly, greeted them politely, and then left the room. Tammy's mother was very confused and worried. She did not like what she saw, but once again, Gertie reassured her that everything was fine. Gertie told Tammy's mother that she was always keeping a close eye on her daughter, but that wasn't the truth. As time went on, Tammy's family found out what was really happening. James Brown was not only having a relationship with Tammy, but he was also abusing her. She was being beaten, not just once, but many times. This wasn't just a rumor. 2 male singers who worked with James Brown confirmed that they had seen him abuse Tammy. Many people call him the Duke of Earl because of his famous song with the same name. Gene Chandler saw what was happening to Tammy and decided to step in. He later said, "I witnessed a situation and she came to me for help. Then I called her parents."
And the flowers.
Tammi Terrell's family went through a heartbreaking moment when they received a distressing phone call. Her mother was shocked and horrified to learn that 17-year-old Tammy had been badly beaten. She was on her way home after suffering abuse at the hands of James Brown. Tammy wanted to leave the relationship because of the violence. Her father was deeply hurt by what had happened. He had trusted James Brown, who was 30 years old, with his teenage daughter. He never expected this kind of betrayal. However, just feeling hurt was not enough. Some believe that as a father, he should have confronted James Brown and made it clear that his daughter would not be treated this way. Some might even say that James Brown deserved to feel some pain himself for what he had done.
He beat her up and she had to end up getting her teeth capped. I remember her telling me, but I didn't want to hear it.
When Tammy got home, her family saw the terrible effects of the abuse. She looked exhausted, worn out, and broken. Ludi, her sister, later wrote that Tammy had been trying to leave for a while, but was afraid of breaking a contract. That night, while unpacking Tammy's belongings, her mother found a blue silk dress called a kimono, which James Brown had given her. What made this dress so shocking was that it was covered in blood. This was clear proof that Tammy had suffered extreme violence. The abuse was much worse than they had imagined. There was also a horrifying incident involving an umbrella, which made things even more tragic. James Brown was known for his violent behavior, not just towards Tammy, but towards others as well. Bobby Bennett, a member of the famous Flames, had his own terrible experience with him. In 1968, James Brown aimed a gun at Bobby and threatened to kill him because he believed Bobby had told his girlfriend that he was seeing another woman. That night, Bobby fought back. He tried to smash James Brown's head against iron bars in the window of their hotel in Paris. It was clear that James Brown had a history of violence, but his worst actions were often directed at women. Bobby also witnessed how James Brown treated Tammy. He later told Rolling Stone magazine that James Brown had beaten Tammy so badly that she was bleeding. Tammy eventually left him because she was tired of being physically abused. She had enough of the violence and wanted to escape. Bobby also revealed another shocking incident. He saw James Brown kick a pregnant girlfriend down a flight of stairs. This showed that his cruelty was not just limited to Tammy. He had a pattern of abusing women. Tammy's suffering didn't end with abusive relationships. She later developed a brain tumor that eventually took her life, but there was one bright spot in her final days. While she was being treated in the hospital, she met Dr. Ernest Garrett. He was not her personal doctor, but they fell in love. They even got engaged. It seemed like Tammy had finally found someone who truly cared for her. Unfortunately, she never got to marry him.
All winter's cold.
Terrell's life was full of pain when it came to relationships. After leaving James Brown, she found herself in another abusive relationship. This time it was with David Ruffin, the lead singer of The Temptations. Just like before, she had to endure more violence and suffering. On her 20th birthday, she had her own song on the charts, and she was ready to take on the world. She hit the road as part of the Motown Revue, performing alongside some of the biggest stars in the music business. During this time, she got close to David Ruffin, the smooth and charming lead singer of The Temptations. David Ruffin was a superstar at Motown. He had a great voice, a flashy style, and a lot of confidence. Many women wanted to be with him, and Tammy was no different. She started dating David, and at first things seemed great. But there was one big problem. David was already married. Even though he had a wife, he still had relationships with other women, and Tammy became one of them. In 1966, Tammy and David started dating. Their love was intense and exciting. David even asked Tammy to marry him in a surprise proposal. She was so happy that she told everyone on stage that they were engaged. But soon she found out a terrible truth. David was already married. Not only that, but he also had 3 children and another girlfriend in Detroit. Tammy was heartbroken. She felt betrayed and didn't know what to do. Their relationship became full of problems. David had a serious drug problem, and they fought all the time.
Alcohol and all types of drugs were just a part of the David Ruffin lifestyle.
Sometimes their arguments became violent. In 1969, Tammy told Ebony magazine that these fights caused her a lot of stress and may have led to her headaches. The situation got worse when David became abusive. In 1967, after a heated argument, he hit Tammy in the head with his motorcycle helmet. Some people even said he once hit her with a hammer, but this was never proven. After that, Tammy decided to leave him for good. Even though she left David, Tammy's health kept getting worse. She was diagnosed with a brain tumor, and doctors tried to save her with surgery. By 1970, she was very weak. She needed a wheelchair, lost her hair, and could no longer see. She had 8 surgeries, but nothing worked. After her last operation in January, she went into a coma. She died on March 16, 1970, at just 24 years old. Tammy's funeral was a sad event. Many people wanted to come, but her mother was angry at Motown for not protecting her daughter from David Ruffin. She did not allow anyone from the record company to attend, except Marvin Gaye. Marvin was Tammy's closest friend, and he was heartbroken. As he stood near her coffin, the song they once sang together, "You're All I Need to Get By," played in the background. So when Tammy died, it changed Marvin forever. He never fully recovered from the pain. He fell into depression and started using drugs. In 1967, Motown needed a female singer to record duets with Marvin Gaye. Berry Gordy, the head of Motown, picked Tammy. She wasn't very famous yet, but that was the plan, to make her a star by pairing her with Marvin. The two of them recorded hit after hit. Songs like "Ain't No Mountain High Enough,"
Ain't no mountain high enough, ain't no valley low.
"Your Precious Love,"
Heaven must have sent your precious love.
and "You're All I Need to Get By" became classics.
You're all I need to get by.
People loved their voices together, and they seemed to have great chemistry. But while Tammy's career was taking off, her personal life was falling apart. David Ruffin was not the charming man he appeared to be. He had a violent side, and Tammy became a victim of his abuse. Things got really bad when, during an argument, he took off his motorcycle helmet and hit her in the face with it. That was the final straw. Tammy ended the relationship and moved on. Despite her success, Tammy started feeling sick. Marvin Gaye noticed that she often had terrible headaches and was short of breath. Then one night while they were performing together, Tammy collapsed in Marvin's arms on stage. She was rushed to the hospital, and after many tests, doctors found out she had a brain tumor. Tammy fought hard, but the disease took over. She had several surgeries, but nothing could save her. She spent her final months surrounded by loved ones, trying to stay strong. On March 16, 1970, Tammi Terrell passed away at just 24 years old. Her life was short, but her music lives on. Tammi Terrell had a tough life. Her mother suffered from mental illness, which made things hard at home. Growing up, she had to deal with a lot of stress. She loved music, but her family problems made life difficult. She had to be strong, but it was not easy. Tammi was very smart. She went to the University of Pennsylvania to study pre-med. She wanted to be a doctor, but her love for music was stronger. She decided to leave school to follow her dream of becoming a singer. This was a big decision, and it was not easy. Sometimes she wondered if she made the right choice. The music industry was not kind to Tammi. She worked very hard, but the pressure was too much. She had health problems that made things worse. Trying to keep up with the demands of being a star was exhausting. Her body and mind suffered, and it became hard for her to keep going. Tammi also faced money problems. Her health got worse, and she needed expensive treatments. But because she was sick, she could not perform as much. This meant she could not earn enough money. She and her family struggled to pay for her medical care. Sadly, Tammi did not live long enough to see how much people loved her. After she died, many realized how talented she was. People gave her awards and honored her music, but she was not there to enjoy it. Her life was full of struggles, but her voice still lives on. Tammi signed with Checker Records and worked on a song called "If I Would Marry You" with Jimmy Ratcliffe. She even helped write the song herself, but the song did not do well, and she felt disappointed. Because of this, she decided to take a break from music. She went to the University of Pennsylvania and started studying pre-med, hoping to become a doctor. She stayed in school for 2 years. While she was studying, a singer named Jerry Butler asked her to sing with him at different shows in nightclubs. At first, she was not sure if she should do it because of school, but Butler made sure she could still study while performing. So she started touring with him. Then in April 1965, something life-changing happened. During a performance at the 20 Grand Club in Detroit, Motown's CEO Berry Gordy saw her. He was very impressed and promised to sign her to Motown. Tammi Terrell agreed and officially joined Motown on her 20th birthday, April 29, 1965. Soon after, she released her first big song, "I Can't Believe You Love Me," which became a hit on the R&B charts. This was quickly followed by another song, "Come On and See Me." In 1966, she recorded 2 important songs, "All I Do Is Think About You" by Stevie Wonder and "This Old Heart of Mine Is Weak for You" by the Isley Brothers. Her career was picking up speed. She also became part of the Motortown Revue, where she opened shows for the famous group The Temptations. In 1967, Tammi Terrell's career reached new heights when she was chosen to sing duets with Marvin Gaye. Marvin had already worked with other singers like Mary Wells and Kim Weston, but when he started working with Tammi, he was amazed by her talent. Their first big song together was "Ain't No Mountain High Enough," written by Ashford and Simpson. At first, they recorded their parts separately. Motown later mixed their voices together and removed the background singers, making their voices stand out. "Ain't No Mountain High Enough" became a huge success. It reached number 19 on the Billboard Hot 100 and number 3 on the R&B charts. This song made Tammi a star. The success continued with their next duet, "Your Precious Love," which was even more popular. It reached number 5 on the pop charts and number 2 on the R&B charts. By the end of 1967, they had another hit, "If I Could Build My Whole World Around You." This song made it to number 10 on the pop charts and number 2 on the R&B charts. The B-side of this song, "If This World Were Mine," was also well loved, even though it did not climb as high on the charts. Marvin Gaye later said that this was one of Tammi's favorite songs.
If this world were mine.
Because of these hit songs, Tammi and Marvin became one of the most popular duos in music. Their first duet album, United, was released in the summer of 1967 and was a big success. During this time, they performed together on stage and TV shows. Tammy also helped Marvin feel more comfortable with performing live since he was usually shy. Marvin was wrecked when Tammy passed. She wasn't just some singing partner. She was one of the few people in the industry he actually clicked with. Their energy together was unreal, both on stage and behind the scenes. Losing her wasn't just sad, it straight up broke him. Dude was so messed up he couldn't even bring himself to go to her funeral. He completely shut down, started pulling away from Motown, and suddenly all those smooth love songs felt pointless. Like, what was the point of singing about romance when life could be this cruel? He wasn't just mourning her, he was rethinking everything. Losing Tammy sent him into a spiral. He started questioning his career, the music industry, even his own purpose. It wasn't just about losing a friend, it was about realizing how brutal life could be. He had all this pain bottled up, and instead of letting it eat him alive, he threw it into his music. That's how What's Going On happened. He was done playing along with the happy-go-lucky image. He wanted to sing about real stuff, war, injustice, the struggle. You can hear the pain in his voice, the weight of everything he'd been carrying. Losing Tammy changed everything for him, and after that, there was no going back. Even years later, he never fully moved on. It haunted him. She was so young, so talented, and they had so much more to do together. That loss never left him. It shaped his music, his choices, and honestly, his entire life. Their songs touched many people, and fans loved their chemistry. In 1970, Cashbox magazine named them the #1 R&B duo of the year. Their live performances were supported by the Funk Brothers, a famous group of musicians who played for many Motown artists.